So with that being said, our focus here on eNCA today is heading to the polls, quite an important one. And the IEC will open 23,000 voter registration stations this across the country this very weekend. But for more on this, I'm now joined by the Chief Electoral Officer, Mr. Sy Mamabolo. Mr. Mamabolo, thank you for your time and a very warm good morning to you. I think with the previous recommendations about, the IEC possibly considering moving the elections to perhaps next year in February, South Africans were worried whether or not you will be ready and prepared with this final decision now having been made, the 1st of November being election day, but also this weekend being voter registration weekend. So that's the question. Are you confident in this weekend's proceedings? Are you ready to ensure that voters are registered?
To Madam, greetings. We've always said that we will be technically ready to deliver an election, meaning the technical, mechanical aspects of preparing for an election were being attended to. And indeed, even as we approached the Constitutional Court, we never ceased our preparations. So we are cautiously optimistic that the preparations that we've made for tomorrow and Sunday will hold up. There are a number of new innovations that are at play. We will be operating on a new voter management device, which is giving us some benefits. It will, in most parts of the country, be operating in an online mode, which means we'll be able to do an instantaneous verification of citizenship, and through the assistance of some mapping functionality, we'll be able to confirm the correctness of a person's address in relation to the ward in which they live, almost instantaneously. Of course, we are alive to the fact that there may not be connectivity at all 23,000 points throughout the country, given our uneven distribution of digital resources. Therefore, we'll still be able to capture, and then as soon as we get to a point where there's a bandwidth, then the data will be updated. So there will be no crisis. Whether we operate online or offline, the same effect will be realized.
Right. And I think some of those concerns perhaps, or even questions around the state of preparedness from the IEC, Mr. Mamabolo, comes from the fact that this election is different from previous ones. We are in the middle of a pandemic. Government has always been warning and, guarding against super spreader events. People are just conscious as to whether or not will this be a successful, a voter registration weekend election in a pandemic, because it's unique to everyone. So with the innovation that you have just mentioned right now and introduced, I understand that you took thorough training to ensure that all 23,000 voting stations have personnel that are well equipped to ensure they assist anyone as safely as possible that comes to the voter registration points.
We've pulled all stops to ensure that, that our staff is well trained, they can operate this new device and so on. But one accepts that in the first 2 hours, perhaps, of the morning, there may be glitches here and there. This is human nature, but not something outside of the ordinary. And we have support systems to support our officials in the voting stations. We have a system of ward coordinators or ward managers who will be on hand to give them support. We've sent them videos, a short introductory video in case they've forgotten, which they can look at and so on. There's going to be a call center, a technical call center, which they can call and get assistance should they get stuck. So there is a whole range of measures that have been put in place to support our staff in the voting stations, precisely because we want to give South Africans an excellent registration service.
Yeah, and speaking of that service, how much, just in terms of budget, was allocated and spent here? Was this an expensive exercise?
Well, there are additional things that had to be procured, in particular personal protection equipment to the tune of 28 million for this weekend. And the biggest cost here is staff will be operating with over 50,000 officials at all the 23,000 points. And that's the most expensive component of the whole budget allocation.
No, and I have to let you go, unfortunately, in a few minutes, in a few seconds, actually. But I understand that you've also written to Home Affairs Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, to declare, obviously, the election day a public holiday. Any response so far that you may have received from, the minister?
Well, we've written to the minister to facilitate a request to the president for a determination of election day as a public holiday. The minister is seized with the matter, and we entertain no doubt that, as has been the case in the past, the minister will procure that presidential approval.
All right, and we leave it there. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Chief Electoral Officer from the Independent Electoral Commission, Mr. Sy Mamabolo. Thank you so much for your time this morning.